Between glitches preventing me from saving new files and me having to delete the old Hartford save file. Sorry for those of you who wanted me to revisit that series on Twitch at some point. That save file's gone. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, by the way, as I mentioned on Twitter, there was a glitch with my game where, despite only having 5 save files, it was saying that I had too many save files. So yeah, that was an interesting glitch that prevented me from recording, which is why there hasn't been an Ottawa or Nations episode in a day or two. Between that glitch happening and me simply not being able to make up my mind as far as what I want to do at this very crucial point in time in this series, I'm sitting here still undecided on what I want to do. I'm so conflicted on how I want to progress throughout this series. Now, it's not as much a conflict of realism against fairness, whatever else. It's more just this inner turmoil between how do I want this series to go. We left the last episode on the topic of Erik Karlsson. Do we trade him or do we keep him? Now, obviously, as far as what happens with Erik Karlsson and his career as an Ottawa Senator in real life, who knows? But the goal of this series is, of course, to win. To take over for Pierre Dorion, to hope that Eugene Melnyk finally just lets me do my goddamn job, and to make this team as good as I can possibly make it. And to do that, it makes sense to keep Erik Karlsson and to re-sign him. He wants an extension, after all. The issue that I've come across, and one that would nearly make me a hypocrite, say, for example, we were to do the 85% trick here with Erik Karlsson, I'd be able to sign him for under $6 million. And if I bump this up to 7 years, which brings him to 35 years old, which is about the time we'd want to maybe consider moving on, it would be $5.85. $5 million. Still under $6 million to sign Erik freaking Karlsson. So in a way, that is taking advantage of the game. With someone like an Erik Karlsson, and again, this isn't supposed to be a realism run, but with someone like Erik Karlsson, we're talking $10 million at 7 years for this to be a quote-unquote more realistic approach, right? So I would be a hypocrite to be all right with signing Erik Karlsson for under $6 million, but not, to do that with Karlsson, but then to not take advantage of the fact that Brandon Montour and Kevin Fiala are still RFAs. Flat out, it would be hypocritical. For Brandon Montour, we would have to go and get our 3rd round pick back from Colorado, but you do the whole drop it to 1 year deal at 1.825, that's a 2nd round pick. If you drop it to 1.8 flat, it becomes a 3rd rounder. I could sign Montour for a 3rd round pick. For Kevin Fiala, we drop it to 1 year at 2.6. That's still a 2nd round pick. So I'd be able to pick up both of these players, and let's face it, we could use some offensive help in the form of Kevin Fiala. We could send down Gabriel Gagne and put Dzingel on the 4th line. I've talked about Ryan Dzingel as far as me flat out having him a bit underrated, and that's something I have addressed. So in future series, he's going to be a better player, but in this series, kind of locked in at that player level. Like, he's not going to be that 20-plus goal scorer on the 2nd line that he is in real life right now. And for Montour, he could easily take Borowiecki's spot. So I got to admit, while I'm still not completely sold on what the hell I want to do here, if I'm willing to sign Erik Karlsson using the 85% trick, why would I not go after Montour and Fiala? It does seem like too much too soon to get both of them, and I did contemplate just sending them both an offer that would result in a 2nd round pick for compensation, taking, and just seeing who accepts the offer first, since we do need help with both offense and defense. I got to admit, I think I'm just going to go for it. And again, this isn't a realism run. This is me still being conflicted as to far as what, me still being conflicted as to what makes this series more interesting for me, because I don't always exactly enjoy taking advantage of the AI and their shortcomings with how they're programmed. That's why, for the majority of this series so far and with the Nation series, I've mainly taken a look at the players who are on the trade block instead, and just not trying to rip off the AI in too many ways, because it's really easy to do and doesn't make it that much fun. But as I've talked about in the past, it's a chore to not take advantage of the AI's dumb decision making, because they make it very, very easy to take advantage of them. So I'm so goddamn conflicted. And despite having the extra bit of time to sort all this out, even as I'm talking right now, I haven't made up my mind. I know I can get a deal done with Colorado. All it would more than likely take is acquiring probably Warsofsky and Nantel, and I don't know, let's see, one of our medium top 9 prospects would probably be enough. Not Bastion or Formenton. Medium top 9s? Ronning, Gregor, Batherson, Lajoie, as I found out. Philip All would actually be perfect. 70 overall at 21 years old, so he's a year older and worse than guys like Ronning, Gregor, and Batherson. So Philip All could be someone worth signing. We just signed into his entry-level deal after all. All in a draft pick, more than likely. Maybe we could throw in somebody else. Actually, we could probably throw in a defenseman here to kind of even it out, especially when you look at who we have signed. I mean, even if we could move Claesson if we wanted to keep Borowiecki at the NHL level. I mean, we kept Claesson for good reason. I mean, decent defensive D-man. But our defense could easily be Carlson, Chabot, CC, Montour, Wolanin, and either Stillman or Harper. And to be honest, if you look at Riley Stillman, the offensive awareness is pretty poor. He's not the most physical player. Look at that skating category. My God, if he's not suited for the current NHL climate, right? So we would have options. So I could easily add Claesson to this deal, bury Borowiecki in the minors, and run Riley Stillman as our 6th defenseman on the 3rd pairing with Christian Wolanin. Or I could give the chance to Ben Harper to see how he does, considering he's also 23. But, like I said, I'm just not sure. So let's say it's all in Claesson and a draft pick. So basically it's all in Claesson and maybe a draft pick for Montour, which just isn't fair. Again, if we look at Montour's value, the Anaheim Ducks simply can't afford him. Needless to say, he's worth more than all and a defenseman, regardless of who it were to be. And the same thing with Nashville. I mean, if we look at Kevin Fiala in terms of whether or not he's worth the 2nd round pick, I mean, the answer is yes. The answer is most certainly yes. As it is, he put up 43 points last year, 18 goals, 25 assists. So he put up almost as many goals as Dzingel put up points. Like I said, signing Erik Karlsson using the 85% trick, as opposed to signing him for what he might get realistically, but then not being willing to just take advantage of the AI in terms of the RFA seems kind of dumb to be that inconsistent about it, doesn't it? And to be that hypocritical about it. So that's kind of my thought process right now, is what do I want to do? Do I take advantage of the Erik Karlsson situation? Do I sign him to a more quote-unquote realistic contract at 10 mil? Again, 7 years, 10 mil, just as an example. Do I sign both Fiala and Montour? Am I sitting here as I'm talking trying to convince myself as to what I want to do? Yes. Yes, indeed. And the fact is, I know how my comment section works. I could end this episode right now and pose the question to you guys, and there'd be a split among what to do. I'm not saying you guys aren't helpful, but in this situation, you wouldn't be. So I need to decide what the hell I want to do. And at the end of the day, it's about making this team better. And while it's not always fun for me to take advantage of the AI and the way it's programmed, I would admittedly just be handicapping myself for the sake of handicapping myself. So with that said, just know if you disagree with what I'm about to do in this episode, hey, if you can't tell, it's been 10 minutes of me being conflicted as hell. But we are going to make a big-time move here. We are going to make a series of big-time moves. We'll take back Nantel and Warsofsky, who are both expiring contracts after this season. They can just sit there for this year. That's not a big deal. We will tack on Philip All, and then the defenseman that I want to get rid of. It just depends on whether or not I want to play Riley Stillman at the NHL level. Is it more beneficial for him to play at the NHL level this year? Or should I leave him and Harper as the top D pairing in the AHL? So third pairing NHL minutes or premium AHL minutes? I'm going to go for premium AHL minutes. Which means we're going to send down Borowiecki. Which means I need to add someone like Urkomps into this deal because he's simply not going to make it. So trade value-wise, it's going to be a little bit rough. But hopefully there's somebody that I can add to the deal here. Jordan Hallett. I don't really plan on signing Hallett, I got to admit. At medium backup, I'm not feeling it. So if I can add him into this deal to make it work, that would be nice. I mean, we're still not close, and of course they're not really interested in anything in this deal aside from moving that draft pick. What about Arizona's 5th? Question is, how much do I have to give up to make this happen? What about our own 5th round pick as well? And there it is. We have resecured our 3rd round pick from the Colorado Avalanche. That is step 1. Oh boy, let's do this like a Band-Aid. Let's just rip it off. Let's do this. Let's take advantage of the stupid AI. Again, 1-8 even 3rd round pick. And then Kevin Fiala at 2.6 for a 2nd round pick. That is done. Let's go re-sign one Erik Karlsson. I'm going to sign him for 7 years. That'll bring him up to 35 years old. And we're going to sign him to the biggest goddamn sweetheart of a contract you could possibly imagine. I don't even know how else to phrase it. So 585 is the magic number that he should sign for. As I mentioned, I was leaning towards, or I didn't really mention this, but I was leaning towards not signing either player. I was leaning towards, again, offering both of them a deal in exchange for a 2nd round pick, and whoever accepted first, so be it. But something clicked when I realized what I was doing with Erik Karlsson and just how cheap I was able to sign him for, and what I was passing up doing by, offering these guys these deals. It's the same thing. It's manipulating the AI and taking advantage of it. So if I'm going to do it in one aspect, why not do it in another? Now, I have had my moments of trying to keep it, quote-unquote, more realistic by, packaging in retained salary with Gaborik. But that was just more kind of screwing around, if anything, as opposed to me trying to keep it realistic. But as you would expect, the Nashville Predators have not been able to match the offer. We have essentially traded Kevin Fiala for a 2nd round pick. Erik Karlsson has re-signed, and now we just need to await word from Brandon Montour, which I'll hit sim regular season here, and there we go. Montour for a 3rd round pick. Not to mention, we have injuries on again in this series. Keep that in mind. Let's set up the team for this season, and needless to say, it's going to look different. So, Montour for Borowiecki. And at the NHL level, Gagne for Kevin Fiala. It was also, the question was also asked, can I trade Burrows to a contender to give him a chance at winning a Stanley Cup? Can I? Yes. Am I going to? No. Sorry. Sorry, but no. That's not going to happen. Dzingel can play center, but Smith is the better option. Now, I'm okay with someone like Paul being on the fourth line because he's medium top nine. He's not going to get that much better, and he shouldn't complain too much about being on the fourth line as opposed to the third. I still like the idea of the third line being Hlapik, Brown, and White. The second line is now Fiala, Pajot, Ryan. Top line, of course, still Hoffman, Duchesne, and Stone. So needless to say, this team is looking significantly better when it comes to the offensive side of things. And then defensively, we are going to go with Montour and Ceci. We'll also have Wolanin and Claesson as the third pairing. I still want Thomas Chabot to be on that top line. So, we're looking good. Obviously, with the moves we made, this team is looking better, as Logan Brown actually has power play time, which is a little bit surprising to me, but wouldn't be a bad idea on the power play with Fiala and Ryan being able to set everything up. To have Fiala, or to have Logan Brown just park himself in front of goal, in real life, that'd be a hell of a strategy. As we'll take a look at the AHL lines as well. Let's get this set up. I still, of course, plan on simming a little bit in this episode. We won't make it through the entire season, of course, but we will progress a bit of a ways into the year. We will not be bringing Nantel into the lineup. What do I want here as far as the lines go? I didn't think Gregor was a two-way. So we have Gagne, Lucic, Burrows. I'm actually going to have Bastian as a two-way there. So Gagne, Lucic, and Bastian, which is all right. McCormick, O'Brien, Roadwall, Perron. Maybe Kravtsov, Batherson, Ronning, Perron, Gregor, and Burrows. That's pretty good. And then in the AHL, of course. Is it worth taking out... I'll take out David Warsofsky first, since he was tacked on to the deal. I mean, it's mainly down to Polka and Englund, who both need to get into the lineup. So I'm thinking Borowiecki's just going to be sitting here as well, which is unfortunate, but we do need depth options. So let's see. 22, 23. So we'll go Englund and Polka as the third pairing. Lajoie and Jaros, Harper and Stillman. That's a pretty solid defense. The goaltending, Hogberg, I'm sorry, but you're going to be the healthy scratch. We are going to go with Gustafsson and Sandstrom as the pairing. The lines are set. With the extra changes, Erik Karlsson is back for the next 7 years. He will be a Sen until he is 35 years old, at the very least. Unless we end up just being the worst goddamn team and it makes sense to trade him. Kevin Fiala and Brandon Montour have joined the team. Let's get this show on the road, shall we? Again, as I sit here, not sure how I feel about this. And it's tough, though, because I know that every move I make in this, obviously, changes the course of how this series progresses. Like I said, that's always, no matter what the goal is for a series, when it's straightforward like this, if I have defined rules, as I drop that great... I gotta be honest, if you were watching my stream tonight, you'll know that a screw that goes into the old squeaky chair actually came loose. I have it on my desk right there, and that's what I just knocked over. I'll put it on the other side of the room. It's fine. Whether or not I have set rules for this series or not, at the end of the day, and if you're new to my channel, hey, I forgive you for not knowing this. If you're not, as Cody CC hurts his ribs in the first game of the season, if you're not new to this channel, it's not a surprise to you. I am constantly conflicted with how I want to progress throughout a series when it's straightforward like this. Because as much as I enjoyed a series like Rebuilding Hockeytown, for example, and if you haven't seen that series, I encourage you to check it out. It's one of my more popular series that I've ever run. But with a series like that, I think I'm going to just leave Borowiecki in the NHL as a healthy scratch from now on. But with that series, I just went all out, right? I had free reign to do whatever the hell I wanted, to take advantage of the AI at every turn. Anybody who watched that series can tell you how ridiculous that got. So I'm always a little bit weary to do the same thing. Not because it's not fun or because it's not entertaining or because it feels cheap, it's unrealistic. I don't know. I'm just not sure. I guess because I want to try and differentiate my series from one another, and doing the same kind of thing like that can make it feel pretty similar. I'm not sure. I can't really explain it. You know what I just realized? You know what my punishment's going to be? For those of you who aren't happy with what I just did in terms of those 3 moves, there's a new healthy scratch in town. I will keep Alex Burrows on the NHL roster. I'll do it. I will keep him on the NHL roster. I'll do it. And I guess I'll put Ben Sexton into the lineup, and that means Gagne will probably... Yeah, that works. All right, so let me go best lines here. I hate to have to do this again, but I'll only have to set it up one more time. So let's go to Francis Perron. Let's go to Eric Selleck. Go to centers, bring in Luchuk. So we'll go O'Brien, Rodwall, and Sexton. Let's go with Gregor. Nope, hold on. McCormick, Luchuk, and Bastian. We'll have Ronning, Batherson, Kravtsov, Perron, Gregor, and Gagne. There we go, that's better. And the defense, same thing. I just have to take out Warsofsky for England. And we'll have Lajoie, Jaros? I'm not sure. There we go. That's better. Got to fix the goaltending now. Make Gustafsson the starter. So that's my punishment. Alex frickin' Burrows gets to be a healthy scratch instead of being buried in the minors. So in a way, it's still a victory for me because he's just sitting there, but he will get some NHL ice time this year, as I'm sure we'll have to deal with some injuries. That's the best I could do for you. That's the best I can do in terms of punishing myself, is I'm keeping Alex Burrows instead of just trading him away. That's my punishment, damn it. But as we reach the end of the first month, we're playing 500 hockey, and England is out with post-concussion syndrome. We don't have anybody else that I want to put into the lineup, so we'll go with the replace player option, and that should put David Warsofsky in the lineup. So we are 6-6 through the opening month. We'll see how we do here throughout November as the winning streak continues, and we are 4-0 to begin the month. Make that 5. Now 6. The Ottawa Senators are on a tear, and it ends against the Devils. We do rebound with a win against Calgary and wins against Calgary and Boston. We're playing some good hockey right now. 2 straight losses, though, make that 3. Okay, well, see, that's why I often don't follow along exactly with what happens on the calendar, because the second I start to point out, hey, we're doing pretty well, it goes poorly. Fairly quickly. But to December 1st we go. The Belleville Sens at 16-8-1 are also doing really well so far this year. Let me take a look, as Erik Karlsson is a point-a-game player as a defenseman. That is unreal. Let's take a look at the lines here. So Hoffman, 14 points. That's not too bad, 14 points in 27 games. I want better. I do. I want better out of Mike Hoffman, for sure. 20 points for Duchesne, again in 27 games. That's okay. 18 from Stone. It's not awful production from our top line. It could be better, no doubt. It could be, and arguably should be better when you're talking about the players that are involved there. Second line, Kevin Fiala, 21 points. Very happy with that as a second liner. Pajot, 12 points. Damn. And Bobby Ryan with 15 points so far this year. So I'm happy with Fiala. But out of the rest of the top 6, I'm a little bit disappointed. Hlapik with 14 points. Very solid for a third liner. 17 points for Logan Brown. So that power play time is really helping him out. And 15 points for Colin White. The line I'm most happy with, the third line, the youth line. Well done. Well done, gentlemen. That's a great start to your season. Ryan Dzingel, I said you might not be able to get the job done on the second line. Hey, on the fourth line, you're killing it so far, buddy, with 12 points. You only had 20 last year in 82 games. You have 12 already this season. Way to go, Ryan. Rising up to the occasion. Zach Smith with 12 points and 10 points for Nick Paul. Glad we stuck with you, buddy. So the bottom six right now is the straw that stirs the drink, so to speak, although really that's just Erik Karlsson. Thomas Chabot, 7 points, a plus 11. Again, Erik Karlsson, a point-a-game player, which is unreal. 4 points for CC, but of course he missed some time. He's played 24 games this year. The 11 points for Montour, 6 for Christian Melanin, and no points so far this season from Frederick Claesson. In goal, Condon's been okay. Craig Anderson's actually been pretty good. So our goaltending let us down a bit last year, from what I remember. Let me actually just double check what the number was from Anderson. Yeah, it was a 902. He let us down quite a bit. I wasn't going to falsely accuse you, though. It turns out I was right in my assumption. And Kravtsov, 18 points, the 19 from Batherson, and 15 from Ronning. I'm expecting big things from that top line in the AHL this season. That should be one of the best line combos in the American Hockey League this year. Now we're 27 games in. Wow, we've played 4 more games than Buffalo, so still extremely early. No real way to tell what's going to happen this year. Let's go ahead and sim another month, though. Hopefully we can continue to stay healthy, or I just jinxed us. So we have lost 3 straight overtime games. Make it 4 games in a row, though, in general, but 3 pity points will go a decent way in helping us. Bobby Ryan, take a seat. And just to keep it simple, Alex Burrows is in for Bobby Ryan on the second line. Not for long, though. Thankfully. Not for long. I'm not going to break up the youth line there, so it made sense to bring in Burrows in that particular spot, even if it was mainly just for a couple of practices. He was a fill-in, but hey, for a moment, he was actually in my lineup. So I feel like I deserve some credit for that or something. And who knows? Again, I talked about it. Someone saying, hey, trade him away so that you can win a cup. Maybe I don't have to trade him away for Alex Burrows to win a Stanley Cup. Maybe, just maybe, especially with the moves we've made in this episode, it's going to happen for us sooner rather than later. As it is, we have a winning record, but I do have to say, in terms of the idea of buying as we approach the deadline, I'm not really sure where those improvements would come from, aside from maybe trading Claesson, as we are in second place in the division, 6 points back of the Bruins, who are on a tear. Erik Karlsson is still a point-a-game player, which is very respectable. Mike Hoffman, up to 28 points now in 39 games. Again, that's not bad. The closer to a point-a-game player the top liner, the first-line guys are, the better. So I'm good with that. I was going to say the top-line guys, and I'm like, the first line makes more sense. Duchesne as well, not too bad, 32 points. And Stone with 30. So the production from the top line's getting a little bit better. Fiala's still doing really well. I'm cool with that. Pajot, you want to talk about improving this team. Obviously, getting a better second-line center, an improvement on Pajot, is a decent way to go. The question is, though, would we immediately remove him from the lineup, or would he take over Dzingel's spot? Problem is, Dzingel's now 4 points shy of matching last year's season total. He's doing really well with Smith and Paul on the fourth line. From Nick Paul, I'm hoping for 20 points. He has 10 points already, and we're not even at the halfway point of the season. So I'm very happy with that fourth line. Again, the fourth line, 20 points, good. Third line, 30, maybe approaching 40, but 30 at least, I'm cool with. And taking a look at this, Hlapik at 16, he's well on his way. He's over that mark before the halfway point of the season. Logan Brown, especially with the power play time, should hit it. And Colin White on 19 points. Now, you could argue, if we wanted to see Pajot's point total go up, he deserves a little bit of slack because he's not on the power play. And I do agree with that. But I'm just saying in general, in terms of making improvements to this team near the deadline, Pajot's kind of the one guy that it would make sense to move. And I'm not really sure if we were to get a new second line center, who would replace him. And the thing is, between Brown, Hlapik, and Colin White, all three of them can play center. So it might be kind of a waste, really. I mean, whoever we get would be a rental for a season or two at most. I mean, if Logan Brown keeps, performing the way he is technically now just an overall point away. 82 is the max for a third line scoring forward, and also the lowest for a second line forward. So Logan Brown is very close to being a second line forward. It's just he needs to improve his shot mainly. So would it be worth getting a rental? Because you got to figure, if we just wait until Logan Brown develops, bam, Pajot slots in on the third line and he'll do very well there. So in terms of making additions to this team for a playoff run, I'm not really seeing it. We could get someone better for Clayson, but that would take minutes away from CC, Montour. I'm not going to do that, and obviously not taking time away from Thomas Chabot. I think we're good. It's kind of what it's looking like here, isn't it? I don't really feel like there are any moves to be made. The only question mark is whether or not there are other players with expiring contracts. And if there are, and they don't want to re-sign, that could be a little bit troublesome. But let's take a look here. As far as expiring contracts go, yeah, it gets rough. Stone, who wants to re-sign. Duchesne's on the fence about it. For Duchesne, we're looking at about 6.5 minimum to get him to re-sign for that 4-year deal. And to be honest, the 4-year deal is the best way to go. Stone, who does want to re-sign, that'll actually be a pretty friendly contract, under $6 million. Of course, we'd have to re-sign Fiala and Montour. Clayson doesn't want to come back, and I gotta be honest, I mean, he's not looking for that much. I mean, even if I re-sign him to that, there's a decent chance he's going to be moved. Like, Clayson's one of those guys that we could let go. Burrows, of course, I'm going to have him walk. I could trade Burrows, but it kind of makes sense to have him for depth. So there's no real concerning player that might want to leave after this season, from what I'm seeing. So I think right now, the best thing to do is just kind of stay the course. See who we can re-sign before deadline day, and maybe make some decisions. I mean, really, the best thing to do right now is to just get closer to deadline day, see who is eligible, or, not to see who's eligible, but to see what this team looks like, and then to see who's unhappy on this team or who doesn't exactly want to re-sign with the club, and move on from there. So we still have a little bit of a ways to go. We are 2 months away from deadline day. A lot could change. In my franchise modes, of course, we have been very privy to mid to late season collapse. So it could happen again. Would it just be collapse or collapses? Collapsi, perhaps. As Bobby Ryan gets hurt again, he'll only be out for a week or so, but that does mean Burrows draws in against the Rangers and the Sabres, in which case I'm going to only assume that we lost both games. Burrows has 2 goals this year. He has 2 goals on 3 shots. Of course he does. Of course he's playing well. Of course he would. But EA, you are not going to tempt me to play him any more than I have to. Not a chance, as we are off to an awful start through the first... Wow. Talking about collapse. Holy shit. As good as we had done previously, that's as bad as they is now, or whatever the hell the line is. Wow, that was an awful month for us. We now have a losing record at 25-20-6. Belleville as well, also struggling now, 23-23-3. Whole lot of threes. So let's take a look at the standings now as we find ourselves out of the playoffs picture. But I mean, look at the 4-way tie with 56 points right now. It's a close race outside of the Bruins, who, I mean, it would take a miracle in the last 30 games for them to not clinch one of the top 2 spots in the division. It's an interesting spot we find ourselves in, and we're certainly now kind of where I was hoping we'd be, where it doesn't really make sense to buy. We might make the playoffs. There is a chance of that happening, but it's not in a spot, where we're going to buy and hopefully look to improve. as Logan Brown has changed from a checking forward to a scoring forward, which is what we needed. He is very close to being second line ready. I guess, really, the main thought for me, it makes sense to keep Matt Duchene. I'm not sure where else the first line forward's going to come from, you know? It makes sense to keep him. Even though, hell, in real life, who knows? He might skip town at the first chance he gets. Bobby Ryan, though. I'm not really eager to trade him, but he's got to go at some point, right? And if so, where the hell do we send Bobby Ryan? You know? That's one of those things where I'm only going to keep him for as long as I have to. Like, if it gets to the point where it makes more sense to have Bobby Ryan on the third line, I'm going to trade him. It still makes sense to have him on the second line for now. But it's kind of a Ryan Spooner situation where you might be decent on the third line, but we're not getting the most out of you. So if you're not going to be on the second line, we're just going to trade you. Right now, that's not the case with Bobby Ryan, and obviously everyone knows this contract is rough. But I think we're okay. Let's sim to the deadline. I'm actually going to take a look to see if any moves have been made. Let's take a look here. No trades so far. We'll pay attention as we continue towards deadline day. Let's get towards deadline day, and I think there might be a chance of a move or two. It really does depend on our playoff spot at the time. But for the most part, I think the only thing we're going to have to worry about is Thomas Chabot's going to be out for a couple of days. I'm just going to play Borowiecki with Carlson. It makes sense. It might just be for the Pittsburgh game. And it was a 2-0 win. Go figure. So, Boro, way to go on the top D pairing with Erik Karlsson. Which, to be honest, that's literally just, if anything, chaining Borowiecki towards the goal, really. It's like, hey, you play second goaltender and let Erik do his thing. It's pretty much what just happened. And it turns out it's a half-decent strategy, as we have won 4 straight games. And Greg Paterin is on waivers, buddy. We claimed you last year. I don't have a spot for you. I don't. You'd be like another Rob O'Gara type, and I had to fight very hard with myself to not sign him. Chabot is going to be out until March, so I am going to look at fixing up the lines here on my own. It actually puts Brown as the second line center by default, which I can't say I'm surprised by. That's just an interesting note. So we need to take out Burrows for Lapik. And on defense, let's run... How's the CC Montour pairing done? They've done pretty well. I gotta be honest, I'm going Wolanin. I want to give him the chance. So Montour and CC, Clayson, Borowiecki. It's looking all right. Kind of. At least in terms of depth. And then again, Burrows is a healthy scratch. AHL, Ronning's up to a 78. That's not bad. Gagne's gone up 3 points. He has benefited very well from being in the AHL rather than the NHL. Lajoie is a 77. Again, our defensive depth is looking okay. I do need to put Englund back in the lineup, though, for Warsofsky. That is something that I forgot to do. So let's go ahead and continue on with the sim, as we're on a pretty good run. We've hit the 30-win mark this season. I honestly thought we'd hit it sooner, and of course, right as I compliment him, Ty Ronning goes down to injury, because of course he does. This game is cruel at times. So we split the games against the 2 Pennsylvania teams. We beat Toronto, now 32, 23, and 6 on the year. Belleville hits 30 wins as well. As far as the playoffs go, we find ourselves 2 points back of Florida. So we are in the mix. We're not in a position to buy, so Pajot is safe. It's just a matter, I'd say, of who we can re-sign. As far as other trades go, the Islanders acquired Jason Demers for Anders Lee in a 3rd. Chicago gets Michael Hutchinson, a 4th and a 5th, for Patrick Sharp and a 4th. So, obviously we hadn't factored in Sharp's retirement. Morgan Frost, a 2nd and a 3rd to Carolina for Jeff for Jeff Skinner, as I am just, I don't drink anything with carbonation. What the hell is going on? Anyway, Jeff Skinner's a Flyer. The LA Kings acquire Nick Schmaltz, Anthony Duclair, and a fifth for a first and a second from LA. My God. LA also acquires Hjalmarsson and Manning for Gabriel Velarde, Jarrett Anderson Dolan, and a first. So, Hjalmarsson's trade value, again, he's not the highest rated defenseman in this game, but trade value seems very random. Like, you can have two players of a similar overall and potential, but they can have different trade values, if not drastically different. Velarde and Anderson Dolan, along with the first for Hjalmarsson. So the LA Kings are stocking up. The Sabres acquire Sam Gagner straight up for Nathan Beaulieu. And that is that. So some pretty big time trades there, particularly involving the Los Angeles Kings. So we know we're not going to be making any trades. Let's take a look at what we can do in terms of re-signing some players here, and hopefully some opinions haven't changed as far as who wants to stay, and I don't believe they have. So goaltenders were fine. Defense, we know we need to bring back Montour, who would technically be an RFA again. So I could actually get him on a half-decent deal. And if we look at this, it would be, in terms of 85%, basically $4 million even. A little bit under $4 million. So that's not too shabby. Just trying to think of how I want to add all this up. So we'll say $4 million for Montour. No one else here is going to cost that much. Oh yeah, we have the money. If it's just Stone and Duchesne as the other big hitters, and Fiala, even then, I'd say we have the money. Again, it was what, $26 million? So $4 million there. If we look at everybody else, Stone is, all right, so we'll say $9 million, if not close to 10. There's no way between Duchesne, Fiala, and White that's another $16 million. There's no way. Although, I mean, between Duchesne's actually looking for less now. That's tremendous. But between Duchesne and Fiala, of course, Fiala can be hit with the 85%. Yeah, we're good to re-sign everybody here. At least everybody that we want to. So let's sign up Montour. The cheapest he's willing to sign for is that 2-year deal, which again will knock it down to $3,975 for 2 seasons. Frederick Claesson, I'm honestly not sure if we're bringing you back. I will look to bring back Christian Wolanin. I don't like the idea of it being a 3-year deal, though. I got to admit, just because you can tell I really want him to develop into a strong player. I'm just not seeing that progression, particularly this season, and there is going to be such a logjam of players. But if I sign him for 3 years at this deal and he progresses, it'll be a pretty goddamn fair deal for us. It'll be a really good deal for us. With, say, him jumping up to an 80 or something and being signed at 1,125 for 3 years, that would be pretty nice. It's just, do I think Wolanin's going to develop? And I honestly don't know what the answer to that is. Actually, I want to take a look at the early progress report. I will say right now, this is the last thing I'm going to do for this episode. Next episode, we will sim through the rest of the regular season. If we make the playoffs, it will be our round 1 matchup. If we miss, I will go through the draft. So, just know that we're not simming beyond the deadline. I just need to hear answers back as far as re-signing players. So, Wolanin is technically a 79. He's playing like a 78, though, which is kind of weird. The hand-eye has dropped. Shot blocking and stick checking. Is he regressing, or is it a morale thing? I honestly can't tell what's going on with him. I'm going to play it safe. I don't know what the hell is going on with him. And if it's a 1-year deal, he's going to be easier to trade if someone like Harper or Stillman takes that spot away from him. So we won't take that big of a risk with Christian Wolanin, even though, again, I really want him to be a part of this team in the future. So 1 year, we'll try to save as much money as possible and drop this down to $975 for 1 year. Warsofsky can go. Ville Polka's not going to make it. Flat out, Ville Polka's not going to make it. It's just not going to happen. So I could re-sign him. There's really no point. I can't imagine his trade value is half decent. To be honest, I don't think Andreas Englund's going to make it either. So if either of them have any sort of value, we'll look to recoup. If it's just to trade them for a 6th or a 7th round pick, with my luck in finding late round steals, I mean, sure, it's always worth picking up those extra draft picks. You never know if you're going to be able to find that steal, and we're getting to that to the point in this series where we might be able to find those steals, but it's just not looking good. Englund still has a decent bit of value. Again, I'm not expecting much, but because Englund has that value, and I don't have much faith in Ville Pokka to make it, let's look to make a deal here. The question is, where can I send them? I am going to try to rely on the trade block again. Wow, Pettersson, though. It's not a bad option. He's a 77 overall at 22 years old. He's pretty much another Christian Wolanin type, though. Like, I'm not expecting much there. Maxime Comtois wouldn't be too bad, though. I actually want to see, are there any teams that want them? I'd prefer Calgary over Buffalo. Flames are looking to move out defenders. Big time. Anybody else actually want these guys to help me with the value? Florida, not that I want to trade within the division. Masharine's not a bad option, though. Actually, let me go check with Buffalo. Just one more time for the hell of it. They're moving nobody decent. Masharine's actually not a bad option from the Panthers because he is apparently not going to sign with them in real life. Pittsburgh, you have anybody decent? Just Alexiak as an RFA. I wouldn't mind trading for Masharin. 50 contracts for Vegas, so that's not going to work. Let me go take a look at the Florida Panthers again. Mainly because this would also free up a contract spot for me, and we might get someone else on the waiver wire. So out of Masharin, 71 overall, 20 years old. I'm cool with it, to be honest. I feel like he's a safer bet than Englund. I just don't see Englund developing. 23 years old, he's a 72 at low top 4. You look at how someone like Wolanin's struggling to develop, I think we're good. So Masharin in a 4th for Englund and Pokka. Let's try a 6th rounder. So 2, maybe defensemen if you get lucky for Masharin, who's more of a safe bet, but again, in real life isn't going to sign with the Panthers. I'll take it. Masharin in a 6th. Welcome to the Ottawa Senators. Welcome, welcome, as we get rid of 2 defensemen who just simply weren't going to stick around, and that does mean that I can take Sexton out of this lineup. So Selleck is out for Masharin. Sexton is going to be out for Luchuk, and Ethan Warwick will sit for nobody. Who am I forgetting in this lineup? I mean, I could have Selleck, I could have Sexton there, or I can run with Ethan Warwick. Huh. Alright, well, you know what, Warwick? You're not the best overall guy, but you're a former Portland Pirate and a former Providence Bruin, so guess what? You win. You get to stay. You'll be on the 4th line with O'Brien and Rodwall. Let's go for McCormick, Luchuk, and I'm honestly not sure. I could play Masharin there instead. Or does McCormick deserve a higher spot in the lineup? I feel like he kind of does. Maybe we'll have the youth line of Masharin, Luchuk, and Bastian. 21 years old being the oldest of the bunch. There is slightly better defense from Luchuk, but we're going to move him over to the left. So from here, we'll have... To be honest, I'm not sure. Maybe McCormick, Gregor, Gagne? Oh, that's right, because Ty Ronning's out. Otherwise, Warwick wouldn't be in the lineup. So we'll go Perron, Batherson, Kravtsov. That's not too bad in the meantime. And then Stillman, Harper, which is solid. Lejoie, and we'll go with Jaros, and then Warsofsky and Bergdorfer. Just because we have that depth there, there's really no one else to bring in. I could bring in a better defenseman than Bergdorfer, but screw it. He's on a 1-year deal at this point. We'll let him stay. Let's make sure that the 2 goaltenders are who we want them to be. And I'm still feeling pretty good about Belleville's lineup. They might not make the playoffs, but I'm digging the team. I am liking the looks of this team. I mean, really, at both the NHL and the AHL level. In terms of re-signing here, let's see who else we can lock down. So on defense, Warsofsky and Bergdorfer. All right, so the only question mark is whether or not I'm bringing back Clayson. Mark Stone needs that deal, and the cheapest he's willing to sign at is 5 years. I am cool with signing him for 5 years. Let me see what I can drop this money total down to. We're looking at 5.4, which is just stupid for a first-line player of the caliber of Mark Stone. Burrows can go. Gagne, he's been progressing at a pretty solid rate this season, so we'll look to bring him back at 107.5. So I went a little bit too far, but 107.5 isn't too bad. And Roadwall can walk, as can Burrows, of course. Left wing, Kevin Fiala. What's the cheapest you're willing to sign for? If I go for a 2-year deal, that is the cheapest asking price to start. So we'll do that just to make sure that we can save the most money here. And that'll bring it down to 3.7, which is still pretty damn good for a player the caliber of Kevin Fiala. Ryan Dzingel, I'm willing to bring you back just because you've done all right this year. You're willing to come back too, and you could be a decent fourth line option if certain players don't progress. I can get him locked up at 155, which is a pretty good deal for him. Max McCormick, I'd really like to be able to use you in this series, but it's just not happening. He could be an AHL guy for us, though. I'm going to bring back Max McCormick for an extra year. I like him. Let's sign him up. Robertson's going to be pretty fucking good for us, too, isn't he? And then Perron, who I like, but it's medium bottom 6. And for that reason, I think I'll bring him back, too, for one more go-around. We'll see what he can do. It's not a requirement, but let's be honest, I'm going to have to sign a couple of players anyway to make this work. So, if Duchesne wants term. Wow, if I go 8 years on Duchesne, which I'm not going to do, I'm willing to go 7 years, and that brings him to 35 years old, much like Garrett Carlson. That's a lot to leverage, our future on with Duchesne, but I mean, if he can be a top 6 center for us, not necessarily our first line center, but if he can then transition to being our second line center behind whoever, I don't know who our future first line center is going to be right now. I don't think we know who that is. But, I mean, come on. That contract for Matt Duchesne, even if it goes poorly with him, we can trade that contract. No worries. No questions asked. We'll go 2 years for Colin White. Go 2 years at 3.675, which again is a pretty sick offer there. O'Brien, Sexton, and Nantel can go. So we have those first batch of offers out. Again, the big thing is just whether or not I want to bring back Clayson, which I don't know. I kind of do, but we have a lot of those fringe kind of players right now. Obviously, we got quite a few players that are in like the same caliber of player type for that third pairing defensive spot. Dzingel is re-signed, which is solid. Let's move another day here. We should get the warning about the deadline. There it is. Brandon Montour is back. Fiala is back. Duchesne rejected. Oh, that's right. I completely blanked. That's my fault. Sorry. I completely blanked. I forgot that he wasn't willing to accept. That's my bad. I remembered the second he rejected it. Mark Stone is back, though. Perron, Gagne, McCormick, White, Wolanin have all accepted. We do get an offer for Jan Ruta. That's not going to happen, as we get shit on by Pittsburgh 8-2. That was not ideal, but that's okay. So the only guy to reject, I believe, was Matt Duchesne, and it's completely my fault because I forgot. I flat out forgot. That's all I can say. So all expiring. Again, it's Duchesne, and that is it. Unless we bring back Clayson. So even then, Duchesne, who doesn't want to re-sign 7 years at 5.5, I'm good with it. If he is. For a first-line center at the moment, who should at least be top 6 worthy for the duration of the contract if we keep him for that long, I mean, put it this way, it's not Bobby Ryan levels, right? So we should be okay. As Ty Ronning is back, so let me fix that lineup again. I'm going to have to go best lines again, unfortunately. So we'll take out Sexton for Lucic. We'll take out Selleck for Perron. And we'll take out Werrick for Masherin. So again, O'Brien, Rodwall, and McCormick. Let's go with... I don't know, honestly. Masherin, Lucic, and Bastian. We'll have Ronning. That works. Kravtsov, Batherson, Ronning. Perron, Gregor, Gagne. Works for me. And the defense, aside from that one minor change there, dropping David Warsofsky, is still good. Goaltending. Damn it, X, please. Thank you. And Hogberg for Sandstrom. There we go. We just need that answer. From one Matt Duchene, as far as what his future holds, we'll take one last look at the trades. Matt Duchene is back. Everyone that we have at least wanted to bring back has re-signed. As it stands, the day after deadline day, we are in a playoff spot. We'll take a quick look at the standings. I didn't think this episode was going to be an hour, but here we are. As far as last-second trades, there were a couple. Chicago wheeling and dealing a first and a seventh, along with Benoit Giroux for Kyle Okposo. The Islanders reacquiring Kyle Okposo. So there you go. Calgary acquires a third and a fourth for Michael Ferland and Matt Reed. It's actually a fairly decent deal for Carolina. Actually, Calgary, yeah, I said that right. That's a really good deal for Carolina. Good depth. The Devils get Johnny Boychuk and a fifth for Mike McLeod, a second and a seventh. So a pretty big price there for Boychuk. There was our Masherin deal, and that is that. So a couple of big-time deals in this episode. I do like the acquisition of Masherin, as we'll take a look at the player stats and the standings to end this episode. So Toronto, they have managed to catch Boston. They also have a game at hand. Again, we are currently in a wild card spot with Buffalo right there. Montreal struggling. Let's be nice and say struggling this season. So we are in the battle. No doubt about it. 72 points for the Devils, though. We're beating the Devils on tiebreaker right now. So it's going to be close, but we are a fringe playoff team. The Dallas Stars are the top team in the league, as we are 14th in the NHL. 295 goals for per game. So we have the second highest rated offense in terms of goals for per game. Goals against is mid-table. So that's not too bad. Our power play is at a respectable 21.3. The penalty kill, though, struggling. Bottom 10 in the league at 79.1. 6-4 in our last 10 games. Are the Habs the worst team in the league? I just thought to look. I would have to imagine so at only 49 points. No, they are not. The New York Islanders, despite having more wins, it's the 11 OTLs for the Habs that make the difference. So there you go. Montreal and the Islanders struggling in this sim. As far as our player stats go, we gave him the new contract, rightfully so. Erik Karlsson is leading the way for this team. I'll let you take a look at the numbers as you see fit. Although, you know what? You can pause to take the full look at that. I'm going to go to edit lines in a moment. I want to take a look league-wide as Malkin's leading the way. Kovalchuk with the Rangers has 48 goals already. He's a monster. And, of course, Daniel Sedin's still kicking around for Vancouver, working very well with Besser. In terms of goal scoring, obviously it's Kovalchuk and Ovechkin. No surprise there. Plus minus wise, it's Lindholm and Fowler. The penalty minute king is Curtis McDermott. Is Jake Dotchin not in the league? That's my first question. Laine has 14 power play goals. And yeah, screw it. You know what? Let's keep looking here. The most minutes belong to Oliver Ekman-Larsson. The most face-off ones. The most face-off ones, really? The most face-offs won. The most face-off wins to Jonathan Toews. The hit king is Jordan Staal. The block king is Sami Vatanen. And the fight king is McDermott. So no Jake Dotchin, clearly. Curtis McDermott has replaced Jake Dotchin as the league goon. No surprise there. Originally, I was trying to keep this video under an hour, but I couldn't do it. I'm sorry. As we'll take one last look at some stats here just to wrap everything up. So Mike Hoffman, 44 points in 63 games. I'd like to see him do better, admittedly. Again, the closer to a point-a-game player you are as a top-line player, for me, the better. So step it up a little bit. Same for Matt Duchene at 48 points and Mark Stone at 45. So I'm okay with the top line. It could be better, though. I don't know. Maybe I am expecting a little bit too much out of them, but I feel like it could be better. Fiala on the second line, 47 points. Perfect. Perfect. No complaints with Kevin Fiala. Pajot at 29 points without the power play time. I can understand it. And Bobby Ryan at 34 points is a little bit disappointing. On the third line, Hlapik, he's doing all right, 22 points. Again, I'd like him to hit 30, so he's on pace. Logan Brown with that power play time has already hit 31. And Colin White at 28. So the third line, doing very well. The fourth line, Ryan Dzingels had a great season. He's already gone above and beyond what I expected from him. You could argue it'd be worth switching him and Hlapik, really, but obviously we want the younger guy to get the ice time. Zach Smith, no complaint with the point total. Nick Paul, 5 points away from hitting 20. I am perfectly fine with that. Well, Lannon's been getting the top line time with Carlson, who's still a monster. Cece's plus minus is solid. Montour with 26 points. Then we have Clayson and Borowiecki. Like I said, I'm happy with this team. We didn't make any major changes. Condon hasn't been great. But for the most part, aside from the aggressive acquisition of both Fiala and Montour, we've just kind of been taking our time. It wasn't my goal to change this team overnight. It's a slowly but surely kind of process. Guys, I'm going to let you go for now. If you made it all the way through this episode, I do thank you. You know my normal spiel at the end of an episode. You know what you can do to support me, the channel, to make sure you're following and keeping up to date, getting all the alerts. You know what you can do. I don't have to remind you again. I thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Like I said, the next episode, it is either the rest of the season and draft or the rest of the regular season and playoffs. We shall see. What do you think? Are we going to make the postseason in year 2? Let me know. For now, though, have a good one. Day, night, afternoon, whatever. You know that normal spiel, too. I'll catch you guys later. I'll catch you people later. Because, don't want to get ripped apart on that again. Have a good one.